Hey guys, it's Ernesto and welcome back to yet another video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm having a wonderful day. So today we're going to talk about composite images. I was hired by an artist to create an image for his album cover. The theme he was going for was the Last Supper. He wanted to capture himself in 6 different personas at the table, which meant the final image had to be a composite. In this video, I will walk you through how I created a composite image. So a few things before I begin. When working with an artist, sometimes you have the full creative control and other times you don't. In this case, I didn't have any creative control over the final vision, the lighting, the props, or the wardrobe. On the day of the shoot, when I arrived, I had some elaborate lighting setups all planned out with color gels. I went through the effort of setting this up and creating what I believe was a great looking image. However, when the client reviewed the images on the back of my camera, he didn't like any of it. I must say, that crushed my soul because I thought these images were looking great. So I asked the client, "What do you want?" And their response was, the images with no color gels, which left me a little surprised because that is what he said he loved about my work, the color. So with that in mind, I simply left the lights in place and removed the color gels. I then captured the images again, showed it to him, and he said that he loved it. To me, the images were flat and had very little interest to it. But since the client loved it, well, I loved it. Now that we have a baseline of what the lighting should be, let's get into the first step of creating a composite image. The first thing to begin with, and the most important item that I needed for this photo shoot, was a tripod. Now, is this absolutely required? No, but it certainly makes the post-production process 100% easier. A tripod allows me to easily align multiple images in post-production with very little to no alignment required. It also allows me to frame my shot and allow me to easily figure out what should or should not be in my frame. The second item is to get a plate shot. A plate shot is simply an image where the background and foreground is captured without the main subject in the image. With a plate shot in post, you can easily bring the elements into the image that may have been overlapped by the subject, and you wouldn't have to manually recreate those elements being blocked from scratch in post-production. In addition, the fact that you don't have to manually recreate foreground or background elements would allow the image to appear to be much more believable. In my case, I only had one subject in my image, so basically every image I captured was a plate shot because I can easily bring in elements from other areas of the image where the subject wasn't. The other item to be aware of is don't let the subject overlap each other. Now for me, when I was recreating this type of image, it was important when placing the subject in each position to not overlap the previous position he was in. If the subject had overlapped another frame where he was in, then in post, the process of bringing those elements together would become difficult. In my case, I did have one of the image overlap with another, where his elbow was blocking another part of another image, and it took some work to get that fixed. Well, let's get into the post-production. So what I didn't mention when I was talking about the setup of the photo shoot is the focus. So on my lens, I focus on the subject that you're seeing here. And once I had my focus locked in, I basically took the autofocus off and I actually just went manual focus. So my focus did not change from this position where the subject was. Every other subject that came into frame that I captured an image of, those images or those subjects were either in focus or out of focus. I really didn't care if they were in focus or not, because I wanted the image to feel natural, right? So, because if I'm taking an image of 6 individuals and I'm focusing on the main one, as in this case, I'm focusing on this gentleman here, then every other image or every other subject would basically naturally fall out of focus. So that was the goal. So let's start out with this very first image here. So for this particular image, the first thing I did was just bumped up the shadows on his face just a little bit. And that is all. So this was our main image that I started out with, okay? Then the other thing that really bothered me about this image was the lights. I didn't really like the fact that this light was out, and I didn't like the fact that this light was out as well. So I fixed it. I basically added those lights so that it didn't appear to be too distracting. Then we had the second subject. So I added in the second subject. So let's see what I did for that. So essentially all I did, once I added in that subject, it also brought in this additional candle holder, which I didn't like. It looked duplicated. So all I did was simply remove it. And I also removed another item here that also appeared to be duplicated. So that's all I did for the second subject. Now for the third subject, this one was a little bit of an issue. So let's take the things off. So for this particular subject, the problem that we had was this subject was overlapping on the main subject. And this was a bit of a problem. And I had to use the pen tool. If you guys are not familiar with the pen tool, it's something that you could look up easily on YouTube, so that I could basically bring this subject in front of the main subject so it could appear a little bit more natural. The other thing that I had here that was a problem on this subject, so if I zoom in here, the other problem was the subjects here. So I didn't get a really good selection on the subjects here, but I didn't really care because I could easily fix that. So as you could see, it easily fixed. The way that I fixed that is simply I created this layer here and I just added some black to get rid of some of that white. So that was the second subject. So for the third subject was in this corner here. Now there was 2 particular shots that the subject wanted for this particular one. So I had to cut this person out twice, okay? And I'm saying person, but it's the same guy. So in any case, this one had a little bit of issues that I had to work out. So let's just turn off all these options here and then you could see. So the first thing, as you could see, well, I cut them out. So that was the first layer. I wouldn't show you that because, you know, you could not Google, but YouTube that and you could see how you could cut people out. So the first thing I had to do was cut them out. Obviously, as you could tell, the image itself doesn't flow nicely with the other images. So that had to be fixed in order for this to look believable. So the first thing I did was just decrease the exposure a little bit on that subject. The next thing I did was basically change the color to try to match the color a little bit with the rest of the image, which wasn't exactly the same, but that was just step 1. Then again, I adjusted the color slightly, as you could see. Let me just change that again so you could see. So I just adjusted the color slightly so that it could appear to be this, you know, one of the same, right? So basically, you know, it doesn't feel like it's out of place. That's essentially what I'm trying to go for. So that was that setup. Then this was just for the subjects here, like the other one that we did before. So I wouldn't zoom in on that to show you that, but effectively that's what I did for that particular subject. So if I turn that on and off, now you could see that image appears to be a little bit more seamless with the rest of the image. And then for the other one, If I turn that on, effectively I did the same thing. So I won't go through all of that to show you again, but that's effectively what I did. Let's leave that subject on. All right, next subject, let's zoom out or bring this over rather. So the next subject here, this one also had some bit of issues on it. So let's remove all of that. So first things first was I cut the subject out because I wanted the subject's hand to appear in front of this subject, okay? So the next thing I did was increase the exposure on this particular subject. I felt like the subject was a little bit dark, so I wanted to increase the exposure just a little bit. And that's what I did here. Next, I increased the exposure just again for that particular subject. And for me, that felt a little bit more natural. The other thing that was wrong on this subject here that I fixed was similar to the other one, was the beard and his outline here. It wasn't a perfect cutout. So again, this layer up here fixed that, right? So as you can see, it could get rid of all of that white stuff around the subject's cutout, so it could feel a little bit more natural. Okay, so that was that subject. The next and last subject was the guy in the Lakers jacket. So for this one, it was pretty easy. Once I cut him out, this one was pretty straightforward. And I just increased the exposure on his face just a little bit. Now, that is all of our subjects. And the last thing that I had to do was just basically colorize this entire image. And this layer here just basically have that color. And as you can see, now the image just appears to be one, like I took it all in one shot. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If it was, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what questions you may have. Let me know if I didn't cover something, or if you wanted to know a little bit more about something that I mentioned in the video. Just drop those comments down below. Share the video with your friends and family. And guys, if you got this far in this video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, well, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.